Also, for anybody on YouTube who is wondering why I am doing this segment while wearing a Stormtrooper helmet, don't worry about it. Okay. I think now might be a good time since I'm like relatively in my element exploring here and like I've found kind of an angle where I can see out of this helmet sort of. I may as well talk about the relevant news, which is that Donald Trump, our big sloppy boy in chief, was missing in action for like almost a week, or at least the better part of a week. Yay! No, I don't want to leave. I will continue. At 29. Okay. So Donald Trump was missing in action, had not been seen live on camera for the better part of a week, which is very unusual for him, right? Oh, I gotta take this off. God damn. Very unusual for Donald Trump to not be in front of a camera for that long of a period of time at a time. Right? And so obviously people started speculating, myself included, that there was a very real possibility that he's dead. Unfortunately for all of us, that is not the case. He was cited. He's been on camera. Some, I think it was like a Fox reporter or something, actually filmed him at an event. It was just like a brief appearance, but it was confirmed that to everybody's suspicion that Donald Trump had like a health episode related to, I think related to whatever he's got, which is as I understand it, it's like one of the advanced stages of chronic venous insufficiency. Like he's got circulatory problems, a lot of circulatory problems because he's eaten too many hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper, hamburger, cheese. You know the deal, right? Um, and even though I like he emerged alive, heartbreaking, president found alive or something like that. Um, I think myself and many other people were kind of validated in our arguments that Donald Trump at this point kind of has one foot in the grave. You know, he's not looking good. He's got like he's. It's not just that he bruises easily, because a lot of old people bruise easily. That's something that happens as you get older. It's that he's bruising so easily, frequently, and consistently that like that there has to be an underlying health issue that's contributing to that. And he looks like shit, and his ankles are all swollen, and the fact that he had to be like that, his condition was dire enough that he literally could not be on camera for the better part of a week. When it's like Donald Trump, he loves being on camera, right? I think that all paints a picture that even if it wasn't now, even if it wasn't this time where he kicked the bucket, I don't think it's going to be that long until he does. Personally. Now, I'm not saying to, like, hold your breath, get the popcorn. I mean, obviously get the popcorn because politics is mad interesting, even if we're all getting fucked raw by the owning classes, etc. I'm not saying to hold your breath for anything just yet, but like, legitimately, they are actually talking about, I think, behind closed doors, the possibility of JD Vance having to take over for Trump. Like, even on the campaign trail, right? It was kind of like an abstract possibility that, okay, we all know that Trump is not in very good health, and so there is there's the obvious contingency that we have to have somebody who can be ready to assume the office of the president if Donald Trump kicks the bucket while he's in office, right? And so they picked JD Vance for that because he's comparatively very young relative to the average American politician, right? I think the guy's like 40 something, which is I don't know. I guess for a politician in any country, that's like not that bad. But then like, other nickname, sure. But then like now, it's not just the abstract discussion that it was on the campaign trail when JD Vance was nominated for vice president, or that it was like when Trump first got into office, I feel like it's now one layer less of abstract now that Trump is experiencing visibly, like the public has gotten wind of how severe the health problems are that Trump is dealing with, such that he had to like go to the hospital or something like that. So it might not be that long. When exactly, I can't and won't say because I'm not a betting man. I've made predictions that have been quite incorrect before, but I think like over time, I think my analysis is strong here that Trump is not long for this world. How long, I can't exactly say. But you know, the clock is ticking. What do I want to name this guy? Dumb nickname, but it's a nickname nonetheless. I'm probably gonna need to pitch in there. My boy is not strong enough. Okay. I think I only continued past the stairs because, like, I had to still find the Pokemon. Uh, no, wait, actually I didn't. I think it might have been because I, like, wanted to explore the whole floor. That rhymed. But yeah, that's what's what on Trump being MIA for several days. Also, for anybody on YouTube who is wondering why I am doing this segment while wearing a Stormtrooper helmet, don't worry about it. This does, though, there's maybe one other thing that I want to touch on, and I need water. This does also prompt the discussion, a more detailed inquiry and discussion on what happens once Trump passes, and once JD Vance gets into office, right, as president as opposed to just vice president, right? So like, I think I've indulged in speculation to this effect in the past, as have many academics, which I would not consider myself to be amongst the ranks of, right? I do think that the MAGA movement as a unified bloc kind of dies with Donald Trump. That's not to say that this will happen. What I'm thinking of here will happen all at once. In fact, it's very unlikely that that happens, right? But I think that Donald Trump was a uniquely charismatic, uniting figure for the far right political bloc in the United States, to such an extent that like you're gonna start seeing a fall off and deterioration of unity on the right insofar as ideological objectives, because the Republicans don't really have a good replacement in terms of somebody who has riz and can like riff with the population and basically like, I don't know, charm the base, that can basically go up and be charming towards the base and be goofy and funny and that sort of thing. The Republicans don't really have that, I don't think. They're all too ghoulish, you know? And so even though I know this could prompt some people to say, well, you know, they're still all on the far right, which is true. So that nominally they should share an agenda, right? But I think they're gonna sort of descend upon themselves. Because remember, the far right fucking hates everybody, including other people on the far right. Trump is as much as good at distracting people from how much they hate other members of their own political coalition as he is like good at distracting people from real shit that's happening, right? Does that make sense? Like as long as the far right can look at Trump or somebody with a comparable amount of riz, they can sort of forget how much they actually hate each other's guts and like haven't talked to their children in years, and how like all their families abandon them because they're spiteful pieces of shit, right? And so I think we're gonna start seeing the effects of that, where that sort of social isolation and social malaise that the far right suffers from, which is part of what radicalizes people to the far right, is the fact that they're highly, like, extremely dysfunctional human beings. That's gonna creep back in, I think, or it's going to start creeping back in at the very least. And you're going to start seeing the far right block kind of fall apart as a block. Even though if you asked people questions, if you ask the far right block as it exists now, in the future, as it starts to fall apart, I think they would share mostly the same opinions on issues. Like if you ask them about, like, do you still think like trans people are degenerate or whatever? And they probably say yes, right? Like, do you still think we need to, like, I don't know, shoot all the migrants? They'd probably still say yes. But the divide is going to start showing it just over like the smallest possible things. The left does a lot of infighting. People meme about leftist infighting, but the left at a grassroots level is way more fucking unified than the right is capable of. The right only ever really appears more unified because there are top down unifying forces that are capable of, like, grouping them and bunching them all together to say, hey, look at that thing, and they all look at that thing. Basically, they're all looking at the keys being jangled in front of them instead of looking across at each other. Does that make sense? Am I making sense right now? That's what I think is going to happen when Donald Trump inevitably goes, right? Whether it's within this term or whether they do the fucking spicy meme where they get rid of elections and he, like, I don't know, he lives as president just long enough to finally flush the rest of the Constitution down the toilet, and then, like, that's the point when he goes down to hell to hang out with Ronald Reagan. Hell, this could even be a point of optimism, right? Because with Trump, if Trump is gone, then, like, the Republican Party, with Trump gone in a way that doesn't make him a martyr, right? The Republican Party is going to be very, very weak. Right? They're going to be newly, like, freshly weakened, and the left is going to smell blood in the water. Shit, the left already smells blood in the water from an electoral standpoint, at least at the local level, and maybe also the state level, because there are a lot of progressives that are starting to make runs for congressional office, for state office, for local office. You know, Zohran Mamdani, Katie Wilson, fucking Omar Fateh, what's his name up in the state of Maine, right? And right now, what they're being held back by is an extremely weak Democratic Party, right? And of course, the Democratic Party is sort of using the threat of the Republican Party as a cudgel. When that becomes weaker, the Democratic Party also becomes weaker. Basically, a lot of the fucking deep state ghouls that have infested the government for decades and decided that everything needs to be a public-private partnership with the military-industrial complex where you pour infinite money never to be seen again. Those people and institutions are going to start deteriorating and becoming weaker because they'll no longer be able to weaponize a charismatic presence to convince people to support them in a roundabout kind of way. You know what I mean? So basically, it'll be cool when it happens, and I think things will get better when it happens, but we gotta make that happen. We gotta, not the part where Donald Trump kicks the bucket. You don't gotta make that happen. In fact, the best possible outcome is where we don't do that, right? Like, he just does that shit on his own. We have to make the impending change happen after that. I just hit my helmet. You know? So basically, get out there and support progressives. They're cool. Like Omar Fateh and Zohran Mamdani and Katie Wilson. God, especially when the Democrats keep, like, refusing to endorse them, we might end up being Barack. We might end up being so Barack, even. But I feel like I'm a little bit at the risk of rambling now. I think I'll leave my analysis there, more or less. See ya. End the segment there, future me.
Thanks for watching, and support the channel if you would be so kind.